Hey there and welcome to another video. One of the issues that we had with the multiplayer game is actually there wasn't a huge amount you could do. You would go around on the X and Z coordinates in this game, rotate, shoot, die, respawn, all sorts of things like that. But actually you couldn't hide. It was just a button mashing and hope you could dodge it and shoot the other bullets out of the air. So what we need to do is possibly sort out some terrain and sort out some obstacles. So first off, remember like before, game object and 3D object terrain. So I've got my terrain in here. So yeah, that'll do. That's a good start. Let's give it a little bit of a hill in it. There you go. Done. And let's give it a color. So really basic terrain, and let's press play. Obviously no camera rendering, that's fine. And I can go off the edge and I don't fall. Actually my character is about 10 meters above the terrain at the moment. So that's just no good. What we need to do is tell the game to put physics onto our character. Let's just drag him onto here a second. So he needs to be, it doesn't need to be on here to do this, but it can sometimes be useful to see him and everything he needs to do. Our spawn points are above the earth, that's why it's happening. That's why he's floating above the earth to start with. Now, we've got a few things. This Capsule Collider allows it to interact with terrain and things like that. So if the terrain was here, it would move up. But there's nothing pulling him down. And what we need to do is put in something called Rigidbody. Now, Rigidbody puts all sorts of physical constraints on it. So it's going to use gravity. It's got a specific type of mass. So actually you could make this interact with other things with mass. But yeah, it's got gravity and it should fall. So let's try this and we're going to see our first problem. So first problem is I haven't actually put this onto our prefab, remembering that our prefabs are what's actually spawned in the scene and not this player here. So let's just delete this player out of it. Just to make sure we land on the earth, I'm going to move our terrain underneath our spawn points. So press in play, land host, and we fall and we topple over. Now we are using a Capsule Collider, and that means that actually it's going to be the same shape as this pool, and if it doesn't land perfectly, it's going to fall over. So there's two ways we can do this. Firstly, we can turn the Capsule Collider into a box collider, and that'll work when we're landing if we land flat. But if we start going up hills, we will still fall over no matter what. Now you can play around with a lot of settings on this to make it really realistic, but for a kind of game like this, we just want to stay completely upright. So in the Rigidbody, we're going to freeze the rotation on the X, Y, and Z. And now when I press play, we are going to fall down to earth, but we don't fall over. And when we go towards this hill, obviously remembering you can change in your code how fast you actually move, so this doesn't take quite so long. When we get to the hill, we'll start moving up. We won't be tilting our character at all, but he will just go up the hill. So that gives you a bit of terrain, something interesting to move around. Finally, obviously you can put trees and things like that in there, and that will destroy the bullets. The bullets aren't going to go through that. But we can also create other objects. So if I did 3D object and a cube, let's put this here, make it nice and big. 5 by 5 by 5. It's up to you how big you build this. If I want to put color on it, I can obviously create a material like I did with our guy here, or I can just go to the shader and let's create a material. It's called white, but technically it's red. And there we go. And you can do that. You can create another material if you want to put that on. You can make it more metallic. There's all sorts of things you can do. If you've got a picture that you want to put on, like of a crate, you can drag that into this box here, all sorts of things like that. Because this has got a box collider on it, let's press play and hope we're nearby that cube. There we go. If we go up to this big cube, we should just hit it. There we go. We can't go through it because it's got a collider on. You'll notice our gun goes through it, and the reason for that is that we don't have an individual collider on our gun necessarily. That is doable, but if you don't have it, you don't have it. If you wanted this cube to move, so actually react, you could then put on a rigid body onto this. So let's go to rigid body. We'll actually make the mass of this quite light, so our character will be able to move it. There's no drag. It's using gravity. We don't want to freeze the rotation because we're happy for this to roll over. And this is the final thing. You see, it's actually on the ground where it wasn't on the ground before. I wonder if our bullet's going to react to it. Oh, see, even our bullet's knocking it back because our bullets have got greater mass. So when you start using rigid body, you need to start thinking about the mass of how when things react. But I'm pushing this up the hill now, and it's going to be on top of us and roll down the hill. It's got rigid body. Now, rigid body is really great for physics. Play around with it. Remember, on your character, freeze the rotation X, Y, and Z, and the mass will change how easy it is to flip over, how light it is, and the drag is going to be, mainly drags obviously motion through air and air resistance, but for this one, probably not need to worry too much unless we're actually moving through the air. It's more important for things like cars. But there we go. That is how to get it working on a terrain, have obstacles in, and actually make your game a lot more interesting. Enjoy.